Oh, this is Keith Holm. Welcome back. Today's tutorial is going to be how we could use Python and Excel to create this dynamic chart. Now, right now, this is just a static image. So what you're going to learn is we're going to learn how to create this chart or bar plot within using Python within Excel. This is also could be used the same way in standalone Python. But anyways, we're going to learn about how to create the title, how to create this legend that's just below the title instead of the legend being on top of the plot or graph or off to the side. We're going to learn how to format the y-axis. Instead of like 300,000, it's going to show 300K. You'll see how we could also change the y-axis labels, the x-axis labels, and we're going to also learn how to uh, format these data labels above each bar, along with this dotted dash line. So in this example is we're going to plug in a threshold. So let's say that we have a threshold of $200,000. And after we select that and the year, we're going to dynamically update this chart. And if the sales for a particular month fall below that threshold, it's going to highlight the bars in a different color as opposed to a color that exceeds that threshold. So we're going to have a blue color and a gray color. So let's get into this and let's see how we could do all this. Let's go over to our data tab, and I'm using a simple data set right here. It just has dates and monthly sales. And the dates are just going to be per month, and it's going to have multiple years in it. As you can see over here to the right, I did build a unique list of years that exist in this data frame. So the first thing we must do is define the data frame. And just to let you know, I got everything pre-coded out, and I'm going to explain every single line in detail with you. So anyways, what you do to enter in Python mode within Excel, you press an equal sign and then PY and then tab. It puts you into a Python mode, and then you can enter in your syntax here. So up here in the formula bar, what I did was define a variable called df, stands for data frame. You can name it whatever you want. Equal, then you could use the Excel formula within Python, and you have to define a range. Either you could give it an Excel table or a predefined range. I did not convert this to an Excel table, so what I did was I selected my range C4 all the way down to D40, and you want to put headers equal true. And once you do that and press Control Enter, and then as you can see, it recalculates everything over here, and everything's fine. No error came back. So that's how you commit a Python formula within Excel. So our next step is, well, we want to get a list of thresholds. So, and these are the list of thresholds, and I went to this data set, and I went to found the min and the max in there. So what I did was here's the code for it. So let's go over here. Actually, let's go up to the formulas tab and bring up the editor over to the right. And I expand this a little bit here. And then what it's going to do is it's going to show me, I'm going to select that, and I'm just going to select all Python cells. And so what I want to do is go over to G1. So let's scroll down here, and this is the code that I'm doing. Okay. First of all, why did I import math? Math is not a preloaded library, Python library that goes into Excel. So if you go up to formula and then initialization, and you could see over here in a second, it's going to show all the preloaded Python libraries right over here. So since math was not a part of this, I have to specifically import it over here. So now let's go over back to the editor. Okay. And now let's go this over by step. This math library will be used later on. So what am I doing here? I'm first getting the minimum sales out of this data frame. And I do that by typing in the name of my data frame, and then I put in square brackets the column that I want to calculate the minimum from. So the column I want is monthly sales. And I do a dot min, and min is it's going to grab the minimum number out of this data frame. So let's scroll over here, and I assign that to a variable min sales. Let's go over here. So min sales. So as you can see, it brought back 85,000. Okay. I did the same thing with max sales. The only difference is I'm using a max method. Okay. And it brought back 300,000 out of this monthly sales. Now, what I wanted to do, now you're probably looking over at this range. Well, the max here is 300 and the min is 80,000. Well, and then you're saying, well, 85,000 here. What I did with this code here is I wanted to go down to the next level below 85,000. Okay. And in this case, the max happened to be actually 300,000. And you'll see this code in a second here. So let's expand here how we calculate this. So we calculate this, we get the starting point, which is the nearest 1,000 below the min sales. Well, the min sales is 80,000. So, and we use the math library dot floor, and it divides and rounds down, and then it multiplies by 20,000. So let's see how this is doing. So my start threshold is going to be 80,000. So math.floor, I take the minimum sales, which was 80,000, divided by 20,000. Okay. Okay, just a second. Divided by 20, 1, 2, 3. And it actually equals an even number, which is 4. Okay. So 4 then times 20,000 is actually 80,000. So that's how we come up with 80,000. Now we do the same thing with the end threshold of 300,000. It says calculate the ending point nearest 1,000 above the max sales. Well, the max sales is 300,000. Okay. Why do we go above it? Because we want to include the 300,000. And the way math.cell divide, and it rounds up, and then it multiplies by 20,000. So if we take 300,000, okay, max sales, divided by 20,000, because I want to go in, because I want to go by increment of $20,000, or 20,000 basically, as you can see through this list. So divide it by 20, and it gives you an exact number of 15. So 15, okay, times, okay, 20, and that gives you 300,000. Now the end threshold is 300,000. So if we go to this list here, down here, the next point, so we got the start threshold of 80 and of $300,000, okay? And as you can see here by my comment, it says generate a list of thresholds in increments of 20,000. Now the range function goes up to, but does not include the end value. So our end value was 300,000. So we add another 20,000 to that. So when it goes and generates this list, it winds up including the 300,000, but it doesn't go beyond that. So that's why we did that. So we got this threshold list of values, which is this right here. So it returns that threshold list. Okay, 80 increments of 20 all the way up to 300,000. Okay, so we got that, and you'll see why we use this in a second here once we build out the plot. So now you can see the start threshold is 80, the end threshold of 300,000. Now let's go over here. How did we get a unique list of years in our data set? So first of all, we wanted to make sure that the column that we calculate this on is converted to a date-time format. And we could do that within Python, and you do that by overriding. We're first going to overwrite our data frame, date column, and we're going to use pd.toDateTime. And then we pass in our date column. And so it converts it to a date-time format. Now we want to get the unique years, okay? And we do that by accessing the data frame column called date. And we do the accessor, it's called dt.year.unique. So it's going to grab the values in here and get the unique years, okay, out of this date that we have in month, day, and year format. So we got the unique years, and now all we're doing is printing out or displaying the values in the unique years, and it's ranged from 2024 all the way to 2026. Okay, so that's that. So now let's go on to creating a chart here. So, and our threshold, what I did was I created a data validation list, and you do that by Alt, okay, A, V, V, and we got this data validation list. We selected list from this combo right here, and our range that points to the list is in the data tab for those list of thresholds that we got. And that's all I did was there. So if we go back here, these are the list of thresholds. That's how it is populating our validation list. We did the same thing with the years. We built a data validation list, and that list is comprised of the values over here. Okay. So now we got that. So let's scroll over here. This, let's close out of here for a second. Let's close out of that. And this chart is already built, and we're going to walk through this, but watch what happens to this chart once I change the threshold so you understand what's going on. So give it a second to recalculate. And now you see the threshold line is now up near 180,000. And as you can see, any month that falls below 180,000, the bars are colored in gray. If it's above 180,000 or equals that, it's gonna color it with dark blue, as you can see by this chart. So that's what I mean by we're dynamically building out this chart and give it a better visualization of what's above or below our threshold value, which is here. And as you can see over here, watch what happens to the legend. This value will change, and the title will change based upon the year. So let's go to 2025. Give it a second. And there you go. See the title change to 2025. And the obviously the threshold is still 180. So let's go over here. Let's change it to something else, 200, so you can see that it gets updated. So as you can see, it updated this value right here. Okay, so now let's go over to the nitty-gritty of how did we calculate this image. So again, we have to import in certain libraries that Excel doesn't automatically import, and we're going to be using the calendar library and also the ticker library from matplotlib, and we're just using an alias called mtick, and we're going to see how we use that later on. So what I created was a user-defined function. Let's bring this into a bigger picture here. Editor. Okay, this is cell D2. Give it a second here. Scroll down to D2. There we go. So we defined a function, and what we're doing is we're passing in a data frame. Okay, we're also passing in the selected year, which is here, and we're also passing in the monthly threshold, which is a value we grabbed from over here. So let's scroll down here. These are just comments. So let's go down to the first one. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to be able to filter our existing whole data frame, which is on the data tab. Okay, and that's the data frame that we pass in. And what we want to do is we want to grab the date column, and we're trying to see what year that we selected. Well, we selected the year 2025. So let's get passed into this new data frame called data frame year is our data frame filtered by the year of 2025 at this point. Okay, now we're just checking, just initial check. If data frame year is empty, we just want to alert the user, okay, you must select the year. And then it returns, it exits out of this code. So now what we want to do is extract the month name for plotting, because as you can see over here slightly, the month, we want to get individual bars for each month. So that's what we're doing here. So we're taking this now filtered data frame, looking at the date column, and using a date accessor, dt.string format time is what it is. And we're passing in a pre-formatted code, which is a percentage sign and a lowercase b. What this returns is we're going to tell it that we want to get the month name, example would be January, and we want to return the 3-letter abbreviation for that month. So that's what you see here on the x-axis down below. And we're going to return that into the data frame month column here. So now what we want to do is the data frame year, again, that we passed in, and we're going to create a new column called color. And then we're going to use the apply method and in conjunction with the lambda, okay? And we're going to, for each row in this data frame, we're going to apply a certain color. And it's going to be based upon if row, okay, let's go step back here. Lambda is a function, okay? We're passing in a data frame, and the row is referring to each row in that data frame that we pass in. And we're gonna check the monthly sales column against this threshold that we selected over here. If that sales for that particular row is greater than or equal to that threshold, then that means it's going to assign the color, okay, for that row to this color, which is a dark blue. Else, if it isn't, it's going to assign the gray color that you see over here. And then access equal 1 tells the apply to operate the row wise, meaning not the column. In other words, apply this by individual row, not by the column. So that's what access equal 1 means. Okay, once we do that, okay, let's go down here. Now we have a new column in our data frame, and let's I'll create a data frame over here so you can see what's happening. Okay, so let's get out of here for a second. So it's called data frame year. Okay, so what I did was I created a separate cell over here, and I wrote this code out and then redisplayed the data frame. So to step back, basically what I did was I extracted certain code lines from this cell up here so you could see what the data frame now looks like. So the data frame now, it has a color column, and as you can see over here, let's get out of here. As you can see, since these monthly sales for this particular year is below $200,000, it's going to assign the color column with this gray color, which right here. Otherwise, if it's equal to or above our threshold, it's going to assign the blue color. So I wanted you to see how that was calculated. So let's bring this back here. Let's look at the more bigger picture on. Let's go back to this cell here and let's scroll down. Okay, and let's get back to this code up of here. Okay, so now we're about here. So now we're ready to plot this. So what we're doing is we're using the subplots of the matplotlib library, and we're passing in a fig size. So what we're trying to do, we're drawing a canvas on top of here, and then on top of the canvas, we're going to develop an axis or plot. So that's why we're returning, after we do all this, we're going to return a figure variable and an axis variable. And what I'm doing is I'm telling Python, I want the figure size to be 10 inches wide by 6 inches height. So that's what that means. So now within, what we want to do is we want to access the bar, okay, the bar variable or bar container within the access object or plot. And so what we're doing here is for each bar in this bar graph, we're going to tell it to do the following. So we're going to pass in the year, the month, the monthly sales. So the monthly sales, which is over here to the left, and the color, and we're going to plot those bars, and we're going to give it a certain color, and the width variable of this is going to be 0.7. You can adjust that. So what is the width? The width is this, the width of this bar right here. So that's what that is doing here. So let's scroll down to the next one, and this is add a horizontal line for the threshold. That horizontal line is this dotted dash right here. So we're using the X horizontal line. The axis horizontal line is what it stands for. So we're passing in the monthly threshold, which is 200,000. The color is going to be red, R for red. What type of line style? We want a dash, and the line width is 2. Again, the width of this line. You can adjust it however that you want. So basically, it's going to plot this horizontal line at the $200,000 mark in this particular case. Now we want to set the labels and the title. So the labels, the X label is going to be the month. Let's go over here. So the X label right here, it says month. So that's what that means. And the year, let's go over here now. Let's scroll back here. So now we're going to be looking at the Y label over here. Okay, so it says monthly sales volume. As you can see, that's what it is. And the font size, you can adjust the font size of these labels here. So let's scroll down here. The next part is we want to format the ticker. So meaning that we're formatting the Y-axis labels to display with the K for 1,000, meaning that these tick marks here that you see is going up by 50,000 each. So instead of saying 50,000, we want to put 50 add a K, which is signifies it means thousand. So that's what this is doing now with that. So this set major formatter method, okay, is using the library from Matplotlib up above, function formatter. We're passing in a lambda. So the x, now x represents the tick value, which is these ticks that you hear, these incremental ticks that you see on here. And the p represents the tick position or in the index. So it's zero-based index. So this is at the bottom. It says 0K, meaning that's the first tick in the position index. So we go from 0. This is 1, 2, 3 on all the way above. So that's what that refers to. And what do we want to do with those tick marks, those values, is we want to take the x value, which is in this case 0 or 50,000, and we want to divide that by 1,000. So if we have 50,000 divided by 1,000 is going to be 50, and we're going to place a K right after that. So that's what this is doing right here. The next part is we want to add the values, the data labels on top of the bars. So in other words, these values here, 130, 102, 180, that represents the value for each month. So let's go back, let's widen this out here again. And what we want to do is we want to get the height of the bar. For January, it was 130K. So that's the value that it grabs 130,000. Okay, so and it places that in this variable here. Now, what we want to do is we want to manipulate this to a point. Let's go back over here. The way I figured this out is sometimes this bar kind of overwrote or was on top of these data labels, and I didn't want that. So I had to figure out a way to prevent that from happening, and this is the way I figured out how to do it. So we're going to adjust over here. Let's go back over here. So we want to take the value, we want to take the value of, let's say in this case, 130,000. And we want to add 50 above that. And then we're going to ask it, is the Y value less than the threshold? If it was, I want to add 1,500 to that. So it winds up being above. So these data labels wind up being above the dashed line. That's what I'm doing over here. Now let's scroll down. Now we want to be able to format these data labels. So we're passing in, we're getting the X position, okay, for January. Okay, that's the X position. And then we're going to get dividing the width by 2 in the text position. And then we're going to add to that, do the same thing. We want to format the Y value. So instead of 130,000, we want to put 130K. So, and then HA is the horizontal alignment, VA is vertical alignment, and the font size is 9. So that's basically how we're going to position it above the bar. Horizontal alignment, meaning position this data label in the middle of this particular bar, and that's what that means. And vertical alignment means place it at the bottom, but in this case, we're because what we're doing above here, we're going to be positioning above that. And now the legend elements here, this right here is building out this legend. Okay, this legend here that's how we're calculating that. So let's go over here. So this is more in depth, so I'll generally go through it. So basically what I'm passing in, these legend elements, there's three elements. We have the monthly threshold. Okay, let's go over here. So we got three elements within this legend here. We got the monthly threshold, which is meets or exceeds it. We got a below threshold, and then we have what is the threshold selected. In this case, it's 200,000. So that's what we're doing it. For each one, we're marking it as with the label is what you saw on the legend. These are the text labels of it. And we're also formatting the threshold to the right, which is, again, we're taking a monthly threshold, 0 decimal places, and we're giving it 1,000 separator. That's what the comma means. And we're taking the marker face color. Again, we're matching up the face color with the bars. So the face color is this. They're gray. It's matching up with that, and the blue is matching up with that. Okay. And how do we get that square? The square is by the marker parameter, S for square. So that's what that is. Let's scroll down here. And now what we're doing is we're positioning that legend just below the title of the plot. And that's what this is doing here. We're passing in the legend elements that we just created above here. The location is going to be upper center. B box to anchor, meaning that this is the actual position that we're going to position it above here. It knows how to do that. End col means it's 3 columns, meaning these legend elements is going to be 3 columns. And the frame on is false, meaning there's you could put a frame around the square, around the legend itself. So let's go out of there. What they mean by frame on, I could put a square box around this entire legend if you wanted that appearance. Let's go back over here. And let's see what else. Place the title. So we got now the title above here. So we're formatting the title, and then we're passing in the selected year, which is 2025. And we're selecting the font size and the padding of 40. So let's go over here. So this is so we adjusted the font size, we passed in the dynamic number 2025, and we gave it a padding of a certain amount, meaning a padding around the title itself, so you could see a gap between this and the legend. Scroll down here. Okay, now this next set of code, so that was the end. Oh, actually here, now adjust the plot layout to prevent labels from overlapping each other, meaning that these matplotlib x ticks, this is the rotation of 45 degrees. That's what I mean. Instead of having them horizontal, and if you had the full month name, they would overlap each other. So that's what that part is doing. Okay, now this is the end right here of the defined function. Now what we're doing is now we're gonna call the function, and this is the name of the function right here, and we're passing in our data frame from the data column. We're passing in the selected year and the monthly threshold. So I know that was in depth, and hopefully you learned something how you could create a dynamic bar plot in this case using Python and Excel. Again, this same coding can be used in standalone Python if you're using Jupyter notebooks or whatever IDE that you're using. So that doesn't change. But anyways, I wanted to show you how you could build this dynamic bar plot and changing many elements on the bar plot itself to make it visually stand out to your end users. I want to thank you for stopping by today. Have a great day, and as always, please subscribe to my channel, and also please like and share this video, because that helps this video to get out to more users that are looking for this information. Thank you very much. You have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.